kerosene to seal the wood. Alright, that should be enough supplies. I think this is going to make my girl happy.
A flash of television fame can make you a star, but for one man, it made him a target. Ronnie Pollard tasted the spotlight on the hit show Street Outlaws, a world of roaring engines and rebellious glory. But when the cameras stopped rolling, his outlaw life became terrifyingly real. He went from racing for a spot on the list to running from the law, a journey that ended not at a finish line, but in a cold federal courtroom. The $1 Million Heist. The night of June 19, 2015, was dark and quiet in King, North Carolina. But inside the walls of Buck Racing Engines, a legendary shop known for building some of the most powerful motors in the country, a crime was unfolding that would shake the racing world. This was not a simple smash and grab. This was a professional job, a targeted attack on the heart of the sport. The thieves were patient and methodical. They found a way to climb high up on the back wall of the building, staying above the range of the motion detectors. For 2 hours, they perched on a ledge using flashlights to trace the alarm system wires. Once they figured out the system, they disabled it and cut the phone lines, ensuring no silent alarm could be sent. Then they cut a hole through the wall and slipped inside. When the owner, Charlie Buck, arrived at his business, he was met with a scene of pure violation. Thieves had broken in and stolen a fortune. They did not take cash from a register. They took the soul of his life's work. 8 custom-built, high-performance racing engines and priceless parts were gone. The initial value of the stolen goods was staggering, estimated at over $445,000. Some reports even placed the total loss closer to $500,000. The list of stolen items was a dream for any top-level racer. It included 2 632 cubic-inch Chevrolet nitrous engines, each worth $50,000. The crown jewel of the heist was a massive 865 cubic-inch ProMod motor, a billet block and billet head monster with a 4-stage nitrous system, valued at $100,000 all by itself. They also took a 765 cubic-inch race engine, a Ford small block, and various other custom builds. Most of these engines were not new inventory sitting on a shelf. They belonged to customers, racers from all over who trusted Charlie Buck to build and maintain their power plants. Their racing seasons were now in jeopardy. On top of the stolen property, the thieves had caused an additional $14,000 in damage to the shop itself. They had ripped through the building, taking what they wanted with no regard for the destruction they left behind. For Charlie Buck, it was more than just a financial loss. He later told reporters that he felt like his life had been violated. He said it was a tough thing to deal with, seeing his passion and hard work so brutally disrespected. This was a crime that required inside knowledge. The thieves knew exactly what to take, selecting the most valuable and specialized engines. These were not items you could sell at a pawn shop. They were meant for the racetrack, and the people who stole them knew their worth. The police immediately suspected this was planned by someone who knew the racing world. And as the investigation began, one name quickly rose to the top of the list, the man believed to be the mastermind behind it all, Ronnie Pollard Jr. Unmasked by the spotlight. But how did the police zero in on Ronnie Pollard so quickly? The answer was found in the very thing that gave him his small slice of fame, the reality TV show Street Outlaws. The day before the massive heist, on June 18th, 2 men walked into Buck Racing Engines. They were given a tour of the shop, looking around like any other potential customers and asking about a new long block build. But they were not there to buy anything. They were there to plan. The shop's surveillance cameras recorded their every move. Police believed these men were casing the property, mapping out their strategy for the break-in that would happen just hours later. When police released the images from that surveillance video to the public, they hoped someone might recognize the faces. They did not have to wait long. The racing community is a small, tight-knit world. Fans and fellow racers are passionate and pay close attention to who is who. As soon as the pictures hit social media, the tips started flooding in. People all over the country pointed to one of the men in the video and said the same thing. That's Ronnie Pollard from Street Outlaws. For those who do not know, Street Outlaws is a show on the Discovery Channel that started in 2013. It follows a group of street racers in Oklahoma City, known as the 405, who compete to be the fastest in the nation. The show revolves around a concept called The List, a ranking of the top 10 fastest cars in the city. Racers like Big Chief, the organizer, and Sean Ellington, known as Murder Nova, became huge stars. The show is all about rivalries, building incredible machines, and the glory of being number one. Ronnie Pollard was not one of the main stars. He was not Big Chief or Murder Nova. He had only appeared on the show a handful of times, a minor figure in the background of this high-octane world. But his appearance was memorable enough to make his face instantly recognizable to the show's dedicated fans. The irony was crushing. Pollard had used his connection to the racing world to plan a crime against one of its own, and that same world used his television fame to unmask him. His brief moment in the spotlight became the evidence that would lead to his downfall. A corporal with the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office noted that many people in the sport are upstanding citizens. They were angry that someone from their community would commit such a crime, and they wanted to see the people responsible brought to justice. They did not protect Pollard as one of their own. Instead, they helped the police identify him. The very fame he had chased made him an easy target for law enforcement. He could not hide when his face had been broadcast into living rooms across America. The owner of the shop, Charlie Buck, expressed his frustration with the situation. He felt the Discovery Channel should have done a better job checking out the people they put on their show. It was hard for him to believe that someone who had been on TV would turn around and steal from him. The fugitive's capture. With his face plastered all over the news and social media, Ronnie Pollard was now a wanted man. The King City Police Department in North Carolina officially issued arrest warrants for 47-year-old Ronnie Dale Pollard Jr. and his accomplice seen in the video, 32-year-old Christopher Goodman. The charges were serious, and Pollard was now labeled a fugitive from justice. The manhunt was on. The investigation also uncovered a disturbing pattern. Police began to suspect the Buck Racing Engine's heist was not an isolated event. They found a possible connection to another break-in that had happened the night before at Eagle Racing Engines in Knoxville, Tennessee, about 260 miles away. In that theft, the thieves did not get away with any complete engines, but they did steal at least $50,000 worth of high-end components. The evidence suggested Pollard was leading a crew on a multi-state crime spree, targeting the very heart of the performance racing industry. Law enforcement agencies in Oklahoma were put on high alert. They knew Pollard was a local, and they suspected he would return to his home state to hide. For weeks, Pollard was on the run, a ghost in the system. But his time was running out. On August 20th, 2015, about 2 months after the heist, the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office received a crucial tip. Someone had spotted Pollard's vehicle in the parking lot of a Roadway Inn motel in Tulsa. Deputies swarmed the area. They confirmed the vehicle belonged to Pollard and then approached the front desk. No one was registered under his name. Knowing he was likely using a fake name, the deputies began a tense room-to-room search of the motel. As they moved through the property, one deputy, Sarah Morataya, noticed a man who matched Pollard's description. The man saw the police and made a desperate move. He tried to flee his room on foot, hoping to escape into the city. But Deputy Morataya was ready. She recognized him immediately as the fugitive. She ordered him to the ground, and Pollard's run from the law was over. He was taken into custody without any further struggle. The man who thought he had planned the perfect crime was caught in a cheap motel, his dreams of a big score ending on the pavement of a parking lot. He was booked into the Tulsa County Jail, held without bail, waiting to be sent back to North Carolina to face the consequences. With Pollard in custody, his criminal ring began to crumble. Just 4 days later, on August 24th, his main accomplice, Christopher Goodman, saw that the game was up. He walked into the Stokes County Sheriff's Office in North Carolina and turned himself in. But the investigation did not stop there. Police knew this was too big of an operation for just 2 people. They soon issued warrants for 2 more men, both from Oklahoma. Joshua Wayne Montgomery and Jerry Clyde Stevenson Jr. were also taken into custody. The entire crew that had traveled across the country to commit the heist was now behind bars. An outlaw's inheritance. To understand how Ronnie Pollard Jr. ended up a fugitive in a motel parking lot, you have to look back at his roots. His story is deeply tied to the Tulsa racing scene, a place where passion for cars is passed down through generations. But his story is also one of a dark turn, a story of a family legacy that was twisted and broken. When Pollard was arrested, one of the Tulsa County Sheriff's captains in charge of the operation was a man named Paul Tryon. Captain Tryon was not just a cop. He was also a racer who owned his own cars. He knew the local scene inside and out, and he knew Ronnie Pollard very well. He told reporters that he had been dealing with Pollard off and on for the past 20 years. This was not Pollard's first brush with the law. It was part of a long pattern of behavior that stretched back 2 decades. He had a reputation, and it was not a good one. This long history shows that the engine heist was not a one-time mistake. It was the culmination of a life lived on the wrong side of the law. But where did this life begin? Ronnie Pollard's passion for cars was not something he found on his own. It was an inheritance. His father was Ronnie Dale Pollard Sr., a man who was well known and respected in the Tulsa community. In January of 2020, Ronnie Sr. passed away at the age of 73. His obituary paints a picture of a man who was the exact opposite of what his son became. Ronnie Sr. was described as a loving husband and father, a family man who loved attending the annual family reunion. He worked hard his whole life, driving trucks in the oil fields before starting his own business. And what was that business? He owned and operated the famous Ron's Custom Auto Body Shop in Tulsa. Just like his son, Ronnie Sr.'s hobbies were drag racing and building cars. He had the same fire, the same love for horsepower and speed. But he channeled that passion in a positive way. He built a legitimate business, served his community, and raised a family. He was a man, according to his daughter, who had 0 enemies and was loved by anyone who ever met him. Ronnie Pollard Jr. is listed in that obituary as one of his father's surviving children. He grew up around the same world of cars and racing that his father loved. He inherited the same passion. He had the chance to follow in his father's footsteps, to take that knowledge of cars and build something good. But he chose a different path. It was a fork in the road. One path led to a respected life as a business owner and family man. The other path led to a 20-year history with the police, a spot on a reality TV show, and a federal indictment. The father used his passion to build a legacy. The son used that same passion to plan a crime that would destroy his own life and tarnish his family's name. A show built on controversy. Ronnie Pollard's story is shocking, but he is not the only person from the world of Street Outlaws to find themselves on the wrong side of the law. The show's very name celebrates an outlaw lifestyle, and for some, that line between television and reality has become dangerously blurred. In March of 2015, just a few months before Pollard's heist, another driver who had appeared on the show, Izzy Valenzuela, was arrested and charged with murder. The charges came after a street race in California where one of the cars lost control and crashed into a crowd of spectators, killing 2 people and injuring another. While Valenzuela was not driving the car that crashed, prosecutors argued that by participating in the illegal race, he was responsible for the deaths. The case sent shockwaves through the street racing community. Eventually, Valenzuela was acquitted because he was not the one behind the wheel of the car that crashed, but the driver of that car was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Another star of the show, Chuck Seitzinger, who drives the Mustang known as the Death Trap, also spent time in jail. In 2022, he was booked on charges of making threatening and harassing phone calls to his ex-wife. He was sentenced to 60 days in jail and ordered to attend anger management therapy. The show itself has faced major controversy. The National Hot Rod Association, or NHRA, is the main governing body for professional drag racing. In 2015, they threatened to revoke the competition licenses of any of their members who appeared on Street Outlaws. The NHRA pointed out the huge difference in safety between a sanctioned drag strip and an illegal street race. Professional tracks have safety walls, catch fences, and emergency crews ready to respond in seconds. The streets where the show filmed had none of that. The dangers became tragically clear in August of 2022. During the filming of a spin-off show called Street Outlaws, Fastest in America, a driver named Ryan Fellows was killed. His car crashed, rolled over, and caught fire. To make the tragedy even worse, it was later reported that the show's producers did not have the proper filming permits for that location. Ronnie Pollard's crime was for personal greed, but it is part of a larger, more troubled world where the quest for fame and the outlaw image can lead to disaster. Judgment Day. After his capture in Tulsa, Ronnie Pollard Jr. was extradited to North Carolina. The television cameras were gone. The cheering crowds of the street racing world were a distant memory. Now he faced the cold, quiet reality of the United States federal court in Winston-Salem. The man who was once featured on a show called Street Outlaws was about to find out what happens to real outlaws when they get caught. The charges against him and his crew were extensive and severe. They were not just facing a simple theft charge. The federal indictment listed a string of felonies. They were charged with felony breaking, conspiracy to break a building and commit larceny and larceny after breaking. They were also charged with aiding and abetting a felony, felony damage to a computer system, felony possession of stolen property, and injury to real property. This was not a slap on the wrist. This was a case that could send them all to prison for a very long time. The court dealt with Pollard's accomplices first, and their sentences showed just how seriously the government was taking this case. Jerry Clyde Stevenson, another member of the Oklahoma crew, was sentenced to 4 years of mandatory prison time. After his release, he would have to serve 3 more years of supervised probation. Christopher Goodman, Pollard's partner from the surveillance video, received a sentence of 6 months in prison, also followed by 3 years of supervised probation. The youngest member of the group, Joshua Wayne Montgomery, was a first-time offender. He was spared prison time, but was given 5 years of probation, a felony conviction that would follow him for the rest of his life. But the punishment did not end there. The court also focused on the victim, Charlie Buck. The judge ordered all 4 men to be part of a joint restitution payment. They were legally required to pay back every penny of what they had stolen and damaged. The total amount was set at $464,378.18. It was a debt that would hang over their heads for years, a constant reminder of the crime they committed. Sadly, none of the stolen engines or parts were ever found. They disappeared into the criminal underworld, a permanent loss for Charlie Buck and his business. With his 3 accomplices sentenced, only one man was left. Ronnie Pollard Jr., the man the authorities believed was the mastermind of the entire operation, the one who organized the trip and planned the heist. His day in court was set. All the legal battles, the investigations, and the waiting led to one final date. On December 16, 2016, Ronnie Pollard was scheduled to stand before a federal judge and learn his fate. This was the end of the road. This was the day his life as a free man would be over. The title of the show he was on had become his reality. He was an outlaw, and now he was facing the law's final judgment. That date marked his goodbye forever from the world of racing and from the life he once knew. Ronnie Pollard's story is a warning about the dangerous line between television fantasy and real life. He appeared on a show called Street Outlaws and seemed to embrace the title as a lifestyle. He became what the show celebrated, the definition of an outlaw. But in the end, the real world does not have scripts or second takes. His actions led him not to a winner's circle, but to a federal prison sentence. He betrayed the very racing community that gave him his brief moment of fame. And his legacy is now sealed not on a racetrack, but in a court file, a permanent reminder that the law is the one opponent you can never outrun.